You ever walked into a room and felt like something or someone was there with you?
Trina, can you grab my cell phone?
Ghosts. Is there a way to investigate unexplained experiences? You are in the right place, for Indian River Hauntings presents Encounters with the Other Side. The ghost guy, Larry Lawson, is your host. With years of experience in law enforcement, he knows how to search for the truth. Stay right here as Larry and his guests from around the world discuss paranormal evidence and answer your questions about encounters with the other side.
And investigate the truth is exactly what we do. Welcome back, everyone, to Encounters with the Other Side. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, also known as the Ghost Guy. And I want to welcome everyone back to our show this week. I've got an exciting guest on here that I can't wait to introduce to you. But I do want to remind everybody that if you are wanting to hear us on 1590 WPSL, we're on the AM dial. You can also hear us at the WPSL website, www.wpsl.com, on the TuneIn app on your computer or cell phone, Google Home, and Alexa. Now, should you happen to miss our show, you can always catch us on YouTube within a day or so, right, Cliff?
The archives, in fact, we are all caught up with all editing production at this time, so it's not going to take very long. It could take up to 24 hours, but I think it's going to show up on YouTube just a little later on today, I think.
Excellent. And that's why WPSL is known as the webcaster to the world. And folks, this is a call-in show. So if you're out there, you're listening, you can call in anywhere in the world. You can get us at 772-340-1590 to call in. Give us your thoughts, ask your questions. This is a great way to do it. Want to mention some of our sponsors and give some shout outs. I want to talk about Paradolia Brewery in Sebastian, one of my favorite spots in the entire world, a family-friendly place.
Can you get my water?
The slogan is
Please?
A quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Beer is good."
Beer is good, absolutely. I also want to make say hi to our folks at Doodlebug Dowsing, the folks that give us all of our dowsing rods that we use in our investigations. Sherry and Nikki up there in the Orlando, Florida area does a fantastic job, and they send their dowsing rods all over the country. Want to say hi to IDK Paranormal, Ike Enzi out there in New Mexico, and Vero Beach Magazine. We just did a real nice spread not too long ago for the October issue. That was really cool. Check out our November schedule at www.indianriverhauntings.com if you want to join us on a tour. We're touring in downtown Vero, on the beach in Vero, Sebastian, and we've got events also going in Fellsmere. I also want to try something new, Cliff. I want to recognize the listener of the week.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
And I want to say hi to my friend and an avid listener to this show, Mr. David Dunham. So, Dave, if you're out there, thanks for listening. And if you want your name mentioned on my show, just get a hold of me via my email, ghostguy59@gmail.com, and I will make you the listener of the week for Encounters with the Other Side. And we got some great shows coming up too, Cliff.
All right.
Yeah.
More great shows.
Oh, yeah, great shows. Yeah, we're going to, next week, I've got a trio of folks from Ohio called the Ghost Sisters, and two of them are law enforcement. Yeah. So once again, law enforcement and paranormal investigations kind of comes together there. I've got author from England coming in shortly after that. I've got a gentleman who's going to share with us with UFOs on the 24th.
Okay.
Another investigator from England, and we've got a team coming from Australia to join us. So we got a lot of great shows coming, folks. An opportunity for everybody to find out what's going on all over the world in the world of paranormal research and investigation. Also, our TV show's out. We filmed a show. It's out on WVWW TV 30 in Vero, and it will soon be up on YouTube. So we're looking forward to that. Indian River Hauntings is the name of that show. It'll go up on our website or on our YouTube show. So lots of things happening with the FBPI and Indian River Hauntings, Cliff.
All righty.
So, but I've talked way too much. I got a great guest tonight. Good friend. He's from Ottawa, Ontario. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I want to make sure I get that correct. Dan Ducheneaux. He is the founding member of Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth, which the acronym is GHOST. He has been an avid paranormal researcher and investigator, and probably one of the most particular guys I've seen out there. He just does excellent work. He's had numerous experiences as a child, and in 1997 began to study and research belief systems and other religious views, and that's what got him into this world. In 2002, he began to study aspects of the paranormal and wanted answers. And in his quest, he founded Ghost in 2010. And his work is dedicated to finding the truth. And that's what we're all about, is finding the truth of what exists on the other side. He and his team use exacting investigative procedures and scientific methods to conduct his work. His email is www.ghost-canada.com. Dan, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Larry, how are you?
Great. I'm so happy that you're with us today. What's the weather like up there in Canada? You guys getting cold yet?
It's a little chilly right now. It's in the single digits, but it's actually sunny right now, which is good. Unfortunately, we don't have the consistent sun that you have in Florida, but snow's going to be hitting pretty soon, I think.
When you say single digits, you're not talking Fahrenheit, you're talking Celsius, right?
Celsius, yeah. We're probably around 9 degrees right now, Celsius. So it's chilly. It's chilly a bit.
Yeah, too chilly for us Florida folk down here.
Yeah, you guys wouldn't be able to take it.
Well, we'll see, because we're gonna have to come up there and investigate with you in the not too distant future.
Absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan. About how you got into the field, and tell us about Ghost.
Well, I mean, I like we've talked before, Larry. Like, there's, I've watched all the TV shows and what's going on, and I had experiences when I was younger, and those happened even during my adult life. And I had a really odd experience back in 2001, 2002. This house I lived in, there's a lot of weird stuff that happened that I couldn't explain, and that just kind of got me going, saying, I need to find out. Do ghosts exist? Can what happens after we die? Can somebody, spirit or some kind of energy be left behind? So that's really what really spurred me on. And after, like I said, I started probably late 90s, and finally I decided to establish a team in 2010 based on scientific methods, controlled environments, and skepticism, of course, and try to debunk things as opposed to prove the paranormal. We try to debunk. I figure that if you have, if you find all possible natural causes for an event, then maybe you're left with something paranormal.
So, there we go, back on. And that's one reason why you and I connected so well, because we have very similar philosophies in conducting paranormal investigations. But we've already got a caller on line one. Jerry, are you there?
Thank you. Is this Wade?
Is this who?
Is this Wade?
This is.
I'm sorry. No, never mind. Good morning. I was wondering. All my life, I knew about a concentration camp during the Second World War called Sobibor.
Uh-huh.
And I must have saw a documentary back in the 60s. That's the only thing I couldn't figure. But in December of 2020, I found out on television that this place actually did exist.
Uh-huh.
And my question, I'm wondering, there's something on my memory about the Carpathian Mountains. And I assume that this was in Romania, but evidently it was in Poland. And I just wondered if anybody knew about the Carpathian Mountains and where they were located. And it was one of the lesser known camps. Not too
Okay.
many.
Well, I'll tell you what,
not
Jerry.
too many
This.
people knew about this camp.
Yeah. I don't know that
was,
this is the right show for that, Jerry, because I'm not sure where any concentration camps during the Second World War were located in the Carpathian Mountains. But I appreciate you checking in. If anybody does know the answer to Jerry's question, give us a holler back. Jerry, thanks for calling.
All right, thank you.
All right, buddy. So back to the show.
Back to the show.
So, you talk, Danny, about your exacting scientific procedures. First of all, can you tell us what your philosophies are? what your thoughts are and what the paranormal is, and then kind of weave into that how you use those exacting scientific techniques into your investigations, if that question makes sense.
Well, I mean, the definition of paranormal is something you can't explain via scientific means. So that's a pretty big kind of spectrum there, I guess. What do I believe the paranormal is? It's obviously some stuff that we can't explain. It doesn't mean it's a ghost. It doesn't mean it's an entity. It doesn't mean it's a spirit. It just means it's something we can't explain. Now, the scientific method is controlled environments. So when we investigate, we make sure that our environment is controlled. We account for everybody's location at a specific place. And we do a lot of experiments. So it's all about controlled environments and controlling what's going on around you so you don't get any kind of contamination. So to me, that's the scientific method. And paranormal to me just simply means stuff we can't explain. Now, whether these are ghosts, entities, spirits of people left behind, or people that can't cross over to the other side, I don't think we know that. And that's the thing we're trying to find out.
Yeah, that and I agree. Now, you talk about a controlled environment, and I'm totally with you on that, especially with my training and background. But folks will talk about mediums. How can you put information that folks are somehow getting from the other side into the realm of a controlled environment? The reason I ask that is it's an argument I have with a good friend of mine, Chris Huff, all the time. He argues you really can't put that into a controlled environment. What are your thoughts on that?
So what I'm getting is can you actually use a medium when you're doing scientific paranormal investigations?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I again, with mediums, I think that I'm trying to see, like, certain people I think have the ability maybe to see things. Certain people don't. It's kind of like, some people have good hearing, some people don't. Some people have good eyesight, some people have bad eyesight. I think our intuition, some people may clue into it a little bit more. There is an hypothesis out there that sometimes when stuff goes on in a location, it gets embedded in the surfaces, especially, so people say limestone and things like that. So maybe these mediums have a bigger ability than most people, and they can clue into these energies, and they can, visualize what might have happened in that location and potentially see spirits. Now, of course, it's not proven scientifically, but I'm not totally opposed to using a medium, but I'm extremely skeptical of it.
Okay. Along those lines, the term elementals that we hear, actually, we hear about that, especially in places like Europe, England, Ireland. How do you see that fitting into all this?
What could you clarify a little bit by what you mean by elementals?
Elementals, wood spirits, nature spirits that are often in the tales of lore of Ireland, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I kind of hit your broadside with that question, but
yeah, you did actually.
well, I'm just trying to put that in context of conducting that kind of environment, because like I said, I agree with what you're saying, but these are the questions I get posed with quite often. If we're going to put it into a confined, controlled area, how do we deal with these other, if they're there? I mean, there's a philosophy that some people may not even think elementals exist, but they certainly do come up into history a lot.
Yeah, they do, but also do vampires and werewolves come up in lore as well, and there's no proof that that exists either. I do know with the vampire thing, I think there's a disease that maybe still exists today, an iron deficiency, where if you suffer from this disease, your skin is sensitive to sunlight, your eyes are sensitive to sunlight. It does cause deformed teeth and things like that. So maybe that's where the lore comes from. So elementals, we can't prove they exist. We can't prove werewolves or vampires exist, or even Bigfoot at this point. But all we can do is set up equipment and see if we can capture something and try to figure out what it is. So elementals, do they exist? Could they potentially be what we're capturing? Absolutely, because we don't really know. We don't know what it is we capture. If you catch an EVP, you don't know where that voice is coming from. Is it a spirit that's deceased? Is it an elemental? Is it something else? We just don't know. And
I think that's it in a nutshell. And once again, I will concur with you. We really don't know what this phenomenon is. I submit that there's just been too much information, even evidence over the millennium of things that have occurred, and not everybody is going to be half a bubble off when they have it happen to them. So there's
Yeah.
got to be something. So what is it? And like your group, my team, FBPI, we're just trying to find where the truth lies. Now, you brought something up a second ago that I think is an interesting discussion, and one that we do have an argument with in the field of paranormal research, and that's residual haunts versus intelligent haunts. And for the folks out there, an intelligent haunt is a spirit or something that will react to you when you ask it a question or in some way. And a residual is more like a tape being played over and over on a loop where it just sort of happens and there's no interaction with it. So my question to you, Dan, residual haunts, are they actual spirits, or are they just trapped energy that keeps being played back on the loop? Do you have a thought on that?
Well, my take on it would be the residual is a loop. It's something that, like I mentioned earlier, about having energies embedded in the surface. It's kind of like a vinyl record, you know. So this will play consistently, and mediums may clue into it and have a vision of what was going on in that location. These are not interactive, so they can't actually interact with, you know, if you ask, do an EVP and ask questions, you know, what's your name, they wouldn't be able to answer back, because this is just a loop that plays back over and over again, and that's the hypothesis behind it. An interactive, like a poltergeist, is said to move stuff, and I've actually seen on some of my investigations things actually move that we could not explain. So no, I think residual is the general consensus with the paranormal is that it's energy that's imprinted on the surfaces in that location, and they cannot interact with us.
So would you call it for lack of a better term, a ghost? Still,
that's
the question.
I know. I don't know what I would call it. I mean, what really is the definition of a ghost? You know, I prefer to say energy. We know it's energy. Our bodies are energy. We're surrounded by energy consistently. So I would prefer to call these energies of some sort, and we put a label on it as a ghost, a spirit, an entity. It's a form of energy. Sometimes it's an imprint on a surface. Sometimes it's something that can somehow interact with us and communicate. And, you know, maybe that energy will take the form of a person that used to live in this location, and it's more identifiable for us. Again, it's very hard to say.
And it's an argument that keeps rearing its head in our field. Is it a ghost? Is it just trapped energy? What is it? But then again, isn't that what we're asking about the entire phenomenon as what is it exactly?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we're just trying to figure out that there is something after when you do a controlled environment with EVPs and you have only 3 people in a room, everybody else is quiet, and suddenly you hear a fourth voice. Well, there's something there. It just means that there's something that we don't understand, something that's, paranormal, that's not scientifically explainable. Whatever we decide to call it, that's up to each individual.
Well, now that I put you on the spot with your opinions and stuff, my friend, I appreciate it. These are the questions that just keep coming up in the field. But talk about your work and how you use the scientific method and your scientific techniques. Tell us a little bit about some of the equipment you use, equipment you like, you don't like, and why you use it.
Well, I think the 2 pieces of equipment that are probably the most important is audio and video. Mm-hmm. If you hear a sound, that's it's a sound. If something levitates and moves, that's evidence. We use all the equipment's out there on the field. We've tried the spirit box. We do EMF meters. We do everything that's out there. We don't really have any proof that these things work or can detect any kind of energies aside from electromagnetic fields. Now, the idea is that when there's a fluctuation in the field, that potentially there's some kind of other energy present, which we may think it's a ghost or an entity or something like that, and that makes the EMF meter fluctuate, just like turning on a microwave would fluctuate an EMF meter. Or I know for a fact when we invest, A cell phone, and I know for a fact when we investigate the two-way radios, as soon as we press the button, that fires off the EMF meter. So these are things you need to know when you're in the field, and that's contamination. So you have to take that into account when you're investigating. We've tried the eddy meters, the spirit box, the K2 meters. We've tried night vision cameras. We've tried the full spectrum cameras. We've tried everything that's in the field, and the thing we do as well is not just try to prove the paranormal, like that there's something beyond or something on the other side. We try to prove or disprove whether this equipment works or not. That's what we're trying to figure out. Does it work? Is it possible? I mean, all these pieces of equipment you get on all these websites, there's nothing, no research that I could find that says, yes, these things can detect spirits or ghosts from the other side. There's no proof. I mean, the only proof I think that would be good is like, yeah, if you see something levitate on camera, well, that's something paranormal. If you can't explain it, doesn't mean it's a ghost or an entity.
It just and same thing with a voice. You just don't know. I tend to agree with you. So what do we need to do in the field?
Well, I mean, we need to, I think when people investigate, I've done investigations with other teams, and, the EMF meter would show off and they would say, okay, well, thank you for communicating with us. And I kind of wonder, okay, we don't really know if somebody's actually communicating just because the EMF meter is going off. So I think the way we investigate, we need to be a little bit more skeptic. I mean, the more skeptic we are, I mean, my personal belief, I believe there is something after death. What it is, I don't know, obviously, but I think in order to find truth, we just need to be as skeptical as possible, scrutinize our evidence, and put it through the loop. Like really, just try to figure out whether it's real or not, or if it's something natural, and if you can find an actual solution to whatever you've caught on audio or video as to what the cause may be. And like I said earlier, then maybe you're left with something paranormal.
Well, so we have all kinds of equipment, whether it be a spirit box, Ovilus, all those things that I might add can really hit your pocketbook. So, big time.
Oh yeah.
So what do we do then to improve the chances that this equipment is working, or what do we need to do to create or develop equipment that can provide the evidence? Any thoughts on that?
Quite honestly, Larry, I wouldn't be able to answer you that. I mean, because like I said, we don't know what's on the other side. We don't know how to capture what it is, what kind of energy it is, what is it made of, and what would we need to capture it. All we can do is try to come up with some new equipment. And again, if you have new equipment, if you have for us, when we investigate, if we get a spike, let's say on an EMF meter, and at the same time we capture an EVP, and let's say we capture video at the same time, now that's more credible because now you have three pieces of equipment that all captured something at the same time.
I agree.
Yeah, and this is what we look at. We can say, okay, if an EMF meter goes off, okay, that means nothing. It could be a stray radio wave. It could be something that just came through. We don't know that. Okay, so the EMF meter went off at, because when we investigate, we have a DVR system, which we cover pretty much the location as much as we can. And when we do experiments, we'll sync with base. So let's say we do an EVP, and we'll say, okay, it is 11 or 1 a.m. in the morning. There's Dan, Kyle, and other investigators in a certain room. Everybody goes silent, and then if we have let's say a noise that we can tag, we'll say, okay, there was somebody walking outside, somebody whispered, which you shouldn't be whispering at investigations. So it's all that controlled environment. It's keeping everything focused and
one of the things I agree with you, getting 3 or 4 pieces of equipment to react or give you some information at the same time does corroborate what you're getting. And I really think that's the answer. And that might be the only thing that we can use right now to show whether or not the equipment's actually working. K2 meter, an EDI, or whatever, or a spirit box, whatever we're using. 3 things come up with an answer at the same time, and they're all the same. That's consistency. And I don't know. I wish it was in my pay grade, but it's way above mine to learn to develop the types of equipment that will help us get past that point. But until then, I really see us using different types of equipment. Hopefully they'll cooperate. I'll get it out to help give us the information that we need. But I don't think there's not enough research going on. I mean, let's face it, we're using the same equipment today that we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, that's why for me, like the two best forms of media to actually capture the paranormal, I think it's audio and video. That's all the other stuff is gravy. If you can coordinate an EMF spike with an actual shadow on your video or an actual EVP you captured on a recorder, the EMF is just an extra thing. And maybe when that kind of stuff happens, when we capture an EVP or capture a shadow figure on video and that EMF meter spikes, well, maybe we're going to start seeing validation with this equipment. You know what I mean? And now what we're trying to do now is we're going to step farther. So we're trying to go back to the past, and now Kyle, which is my second in command, and he's a tech expert. I call him the what was the guy from Ghostbusters there, the scientist with all the gadgets, Eichmann or something. Anyways, I compare Kyle to this guy. He's got all these gadgets. I think half his house is just a lot of different things. So what he's doing now, we're going back to analog equipment. So we have reel-to-reel recorders, tape recorders, because those will not be affected as much as digital. We're actually going back to Polaroid pictures to try that to see again, because that's old equipment that they used to use in the past. So let's try to go back to that and see if we can capture something that way.
Going old school.
Old school, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing a lot of people forget too in investigations. You can go out and spend literally thousands of dollars on equipment, but sometimes it's just the old tried and true stuff that works even better. A lot of folks swear by magnetic tapes, like you're talking about using.
Mm-hmm.
And just for folks out there that might not know what an EVP is, it's essentially, you can't hear it, but it's something that ends up imprinted on a recorder that you hear later. And it all has to do with frequency and vibration. And there's many feel that the frequency and vibration being imprinted on that magnetic tape is a lot more consistent, better than on digital. So it's hard.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too with the old analog equipment, you can't manipulate it. You can't change it. It's on tape. So, a lot of people will say, okay, you manipulated the digital audio, you did this, you manipulated the video. If it's on tape, you can't manipulate it. It's there. That's what we caught, Yeah. This equipment is not fallible. It's old tech, but that's what we're trying to do now is go back to old school and find out if it's a way of investigating that we've never tried. And Kyle said, let's go back to the old stuff then and see if we can capture something that way.
Terrific. Well, got a bunch more questions to ask you regarding your views on evidence in the paranormal, but we're got to take a break. So folks, stay with us. We'll be back after this short break.
Would you like the opportunity to participate in a paranormal adventure? Indian River Hauntings is your connection for historical walking tours and events with a paranormal twist. Learn historical facts and haunted stories about Vero Beach, Sebastian, and Fellsmere. Guests get a hands-on experience and use investigative equipment to see for themselves what can and cannot be explained. Book your ghost tour or contact Larry Lawson for a custom event at the website IndianRiverHauntings.com.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
And now back to Encounters with the Other Side. Once again, here's your host, Larry Lawson.
And we are back, folks, with my guest today, Dan Ducheneaux from Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth, up there in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And once again, thanks for being with us, Danny.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We were talking about equipment before, and I got to throw here because I have one piece of equipment that I really enjoy, and I agree with what you're saying. Seeing and hearing is believing, and that's where we've gotten, frankly, our most significant evidence. But that you call it an EDI, I just refer to as an EDI or EDI plus. That's a little piece of equipment that we can record not only vibration, EMF, temperature, but also humidity and barometric pressure, things like that. And literally, we put an SD card in it and put it in the computer, and it maps out exactly what you any anomalies when it happens. And that works really great. For example, if you were to get some sort of visual on your camera, a shadow or whatever, or an EVP at a certain time, you can compare it with what this device gets to see if there's any atmospheric changes. So I just thought I'd toss that out there as something that I really enjoy using.
Yeah, well, I enjoy the idea as well because, again, it's about the environment, right? If there's a fluctuation in barometric pressure or a sudden cold, excuse me, a sudden cold spot, or, temperature suddenly goes down by a certain amount of degrees, and you capture something on audio and video, then that validates that equipment a little bit more. Yes, the Eddy is versatile because it covers EMF, it covers temperature raise, temperature drop, barometric pressure and all that stuff. So, and the fact that you can review it after on a program to actually coordinate the actual time you caught the spike or this anomaly, and if you coordinate that with another piece of evidence or another piece of equipment, validation is so much easier.
So you're collecting evidence in your investigations, and I want to talk about some of your investigations in just a couple of seconds. You've collected evidence. What do you do with it?
Well, we catalog it. We give it. We make sure we got a case file, the dates, the times. Everything is separated in audio. It is viewed after with an audio program that we do not alter the audio at all, and then we'll listen to the audio and try to figure out if we do catch something. Try to figure out if it's something paranormal, something we can't explain, or is it something we heard? Maybe it was some kind of contamination outside or something like that. So we'll review all the evidence. The only thing we don't review, which was a little bit too time consuming, and some people in the paranormal field may disagree with me, is DVR footage. Now, DVR footage, the reason we use a DVR is to have cameras in certain locations in case something happens. So if something does happen, then we can go back to it and say, okay, now we're going to go review this DVR footage because we heard a sound or a door slam in that section, which actually helped us a lot when we did the Ottawa jail hostel in Ottawa. And that's how we captured that window opening, because we had a camera there, and when we heard the sound, we could go back to the footage and actually view what happened in that hallway, and we captured that window. So we'll review our evidence, and it's all cataloged on a 2 terabyte drive, and a bunch of people, one person will review it, somebody else will review it as well to get a different point of view.
Yeah, we use the DVR ourselves in separate rooms, and we've gotten some pretty amazing stuff with it, but it's also time consuming because, let's face it, this field of research doesn't pay, which means you have to work. Yeah. Because if you do 2 hours worth of video, you got to watch 2 hours worth of video. And
exactly. Well, go ahead, Larry.
And we're the same way with our audios. We try to keep our EVP sessions to a minute, 2 minutes tops, because somebody's got to go back and listen to them. And if you've got 4 hours worth of audio, you got to listen to 4 hours of audio.
And if you're doing 12 hours, it's 12 hours of, DVR footage. Exactly. One thing we do now to circumvent, we have somebody that we call our base controller. So this person will sit there and they'll monitor the DVR cameras all over the place. Like we usually have about 8, sometimes 10 of them, and they'll monitor. Of course, you're not going to catch everything. It's hard to monitor 8 screens at once. But somebody will be there and they'll take notes. I noticed a shadow in this section. Something flew by the camera. Could be dust. And usually orbs, it's probably dust most of the time. And so this person will take notes, and then we'll review those sections of the DVR. So we're not going through the whole, because basically if somebody's sitting at base, you're already reviewing the DVR footage at that point, right? Because it's live.
Yeah, that's kind of where I end up at what our command post is, as we like to call it. I will sit there in front of the monitor and view. So I get that completely. So you've collected evidence. You've got a bank of it. You've cataloged it. You've put it away. Do you ever share it?
Yes, we do share it. I mean, we share it on our Facebook page with our people that follow us, and we sometimes would like to get their opinions. What do you think this may be? And a lot of the times we'll post things that we have explained. Either a dust going by the camera or a shadow or something like that we explain. Oh, it was Kyle in the corner and the lighting kind of caused a shadow, so it's not paranormal. So we'll post this online and let people decide if they can figure things out for themselves, and they can form an opinion of what they think it is. So we'll post it on our page, and but then again, evidence is rare sometimes. Like it's not like you capture something at every investigation. It's on TV, is it? No, it's not like TV. No, it's not. No, at all. But we have captured a lot of good things, and some compelling audio and some visual stuff that we just couldn't explain. And again, it's debunking. Like when we captured the window opening at the Ottawa jail hostel, well, we didn't say somebody opened the window. Or a ghost, an entity opened the window. We just went back. Okay, well, let's consult with experts. So we consulted with an HVAC specialist, and he viewed the video, and he said, well, okay, it could be negative, positive pressures in the building. So we went back and we took some measurements with the manometer, and he said the measurements were so minimal that the pressures wouldn't have caused the window to open. So we kind of debunked that. That's not what's going on. And because the way the window opened and stopped very abruptly, he said, okay, well, it can't be wind either. So now we're trying to figure out, okay, well, what did it then? What opened that window? So, you have to debunk your evidence. And that's what we usually do. We'll try to go back to the experts and say, okay, listen, we captured this. Can you explain this to us? Like, what could have caused this to happen?
And we're always looking to find a natural or man-made reason for it before we go to the paranormal side. Absolutely. Because then once everything else is left out, then you're left with the question mark. What did it? Man.
Exactly.
Nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nature didn't do it. So in sharing evidence, and we like to do this the same, and I applaud you for putting out even the stuff that you've debunked so people can see the difference. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Sharing with other people, this is a big thing with me, and that's collecting evidence, sharing it with other teams, and comparing it with events you have, i.e. You have an event that occurs up in Ottawa, and it's December, and the temperatures is at a certain area, a level, the humidity is at a certain level, the moon phase is at a certain level, and I then also catch evidence under the same circumstances, sharing that information between teams, that might very well produce some other corroboration of evidence. So I'm getting at is sharing it with other teams and not keeping it all to yourself because it's mine.
No. I mean, that was a general attitude for a lot of teams, right? Of course, right now it's everybody wants a TV show, right? So it's very competitive. I think at one point we're all guilty of it, but now we're starting to cooperate with different teams in our area. We recently did an investigation with a team out of Smith Falls called the Night Watchman. It was interesting to see what their methods were, and they showed us some of the stuff they captured. We showed them what we captured. They gave us their opinion. So I think sharing evidence is probably the road we should take. I think, because really it's not about being competitive. It's about we're all trying to find the same answers, and if we cooperate together, well, really we're just helping ourselves out, right? Or you're helping your team by getting the opinion from other teams.
Absolutely. If we don't share evidence, it's like in law enforcement for years, back in the day, police agencies didn't share information with each other and they kept it to themselves. It's my case. I don't want to share it. But then we reached a point where we did start sharing information across the country, and it helped us start solving big crimes such as serial killers by sharing information of murders up in the northwest of the country. Sometimes helped us solve murders down here because it was the same person. So
Yeah.
And that's where we need to get. And that's kind of my philosophy is we got to start working together to solve this problem and go where the evidence takes us. Who knows? We might even find out it is something paranormal, or it might be even us creating our own evidence. And that's a whole different discussion.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's vitally important, and unity within our field of research is vital.
I think so. I think so. I think it's definitely the way we should be heading, for sure.
Do you know, and I've actually tried it myself and it's not been successful yet, but we're still working on it. But do you know of any group or group of investigative teams that are collecting their evidence, sharing it? Do you have any?
Well, we do have we have CHAPS that's more in the Toronto area that we are coordinating an investigation for spring 2022 at Fort Henry. So this is something that's in the works, and so that's one of them. They're called Chaps Paranormal. Like I said, we've also cooperated with the Night Watchman, which is another local team. There's a lot of different teams around. There's Bytown Paranormal. There's Ottawa Paranormal Research and Investigations, again from Ottawa. So there's a lot of teams in this area that are doing it, but I think we all have different investigative methods, which I've noticed when we cooperate with other teams, it's very different. We all have our way of doing it, but seeing somebody else's investigative methods is a good thing. We're seeing
everybody's going to have a different style. And I think that's one reason people have gotten uptight in our field. Well, I don't do it that. My way is the right way. Well, no, nobody has the right way. People have some different styles, and that's fine. I would like to see some standards in the field. For example, the example I like to give is if a homicide occurs up in Spokane, Washington, and one occurs down in Miami, Florida, they're essentially investigated the same way. There's some different laws, some different structures in place, but essentially the investigation is going to go the same way. And I'd like to see that in this field, and that would not inhibit styles or just certain methods, but it would give us some structure, and it would allow our evidence to be a little bit more consistent. That's my thoughts anyway.
Like a certain type of norm that we all follow.
Exactly.
We would have our own investigative methods, but a certain base that everybody would agree to say, okay, well, this is going to be the norm, and this is what we should all agree on.
Exactly. That's my thought. And I think to me, that is the future of the field, by coming up with those norms, those standards that everybody can work by, using their own methods. I certainly don't want to tell you how to do your thing, and you don't want to tell me how to do my thing. But if we
don't tell me to do my job, Larry.
But if we have the same standards, I think end up our evidence will be more consistent. So in our last few minutes together, I love asking folks that are in the same field this question: your most fascinating investigation. What is the one case that really marked you?
Well, I would say there are two locations. One location is obviously the Ottawa Jail Hostel, because we captured so much evidence there. And we talked about residual energy earlier, and we actually captured the sounds of cell doors opening and closing very clearly on 3 occasions. And when we looked at our DVR cameras, not a single door was opening. So Ottawa Jail Hostel would definitely be one of our top ones in Ottawa. That was just because of the amount of evidence we've captured there, and stuff that we cannot explain. The second place I would probably say it's a small inn in Gananoque. We had not a lot of evidence, but a lot of personal experiences, which obviously you can't validate, but a couple of scary experiences that we had at that place. So I would say those are probably the two locations that for me really threw me for a loop, was those two places. One more on a personal experience basis, and the other one more on the amount of evidence we actually captured. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you talk about this brings up another question. You talk about personal experiences, and you used to hear that a lot on the TV shows and whatnot. Does that have a place in our investigations?
Well, I mean, if you get a hunch or feeling, or you feel something and you follow it with equipment, yes, maybe. But of course, our field is all about validation, right? It's about capturing evidence, documenting evidence, and a personal experience is simply that. It's a personal experience. If you get a feeling and you follow it, then you capture something, then maybe that's the good way to go. Does it have a place in the scientific method? I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever been scared?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. But I don't run away. I don't run away from it. But I've been startled in a couple of locations. Like I said, that one place in Gananoque, that was a really eye-opening experience for me. I'm not going to get into that because that's, like you said, it's a totally different show. Yeah. It's normal to get scared. It's and this is where I think sometimes our minds will play tricks on us. I think when you're investigating, your mind could be your worst enemy, because people say, well, I gotta chill, maybe there's something here. Well, you're putting yourself in let's say a cold, damp environment that's known to be haunted in the dark. Well, what's going to happen? Your body's going to react to that, And yeah, you're going to get chills, and you're going to get spooked, and you're going to get, little knots in your stomach. Can you validate that as, there's a spirit close to you or something like that? Absolutely not. But it's our natural physiology that reacts to the environments that we're put in.
But
So,
if that happens and you're able to corroborate it with different pieces of equipment.
yes, then it becomes a little bit more legit, as I would say. Okay, well, maybe we do capture. I get a feeling, and at that same time, we caught an EVP, or we saw a shadow going by this person that had that feeling. So again, it becomes validation, to a certain extent.
I had I just share with you briefly. I had an investigation last Saturday evening, and being a cop, some of this stuff has been tough for me to validate, because I'm in a business where I've got to bring evidence to court to prove somebody's innocence, and it can't be I think or I guess. It's got to be tangible.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting at the spot and just conducting the investigation. I'm speaking, and we've got a couple pieces of equipment going, and without question, my hand right up along my fingers gets cold, and we hit it with a digital thermometer. That frankly never happens to me. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
And my hand was like full 10 degrees colder than my other hand and the rest of my body. How do you take that?
Well, it could be blood flow. Maybe suddenly blood flow wasn't going to your hand. It could be that simple explanation like that. It could be like right now I got a chill, but I have a register behind my back. The furnaces went on, so I got this blast of air up my back. So that doesn't mean it's a ghost. Again, our bodies, feelings that our bodies get, you can't say it's a ghost or an entity. I think most of the time it's probably caused by natural causes that we assume could be paranormal.
And like maybe suddenly getting goose pimples or something like that, hair standing up in your head. It could be a reaction to your thoughts. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're put in this environment where you know it's haunted. There's stuff that's been going on, so your body's going to react to that. That's kind of like they say, well, if you're in the dark, your other senses are going to heighten, right? Like your hearing and everything else is going to heighten. So I think when you're put in those environments in the dark, your senses get heightened. So you're more susceptible to get these goosebumps and these odd feelings and these feelings of, okay, I don't feel comfortable here because there's been a report of a shadow walking around a certain area. So you're already kind of, you have that mindset already that, you're put in this situation and your body obviously just reacts to it.
Yeah, I'd agree. Now, what happened to me the other night, it wasn't blood flow. The way I was sitting, it was not blood flow to the arm.
No.
but on the same token, your point is well taken. But I think we at least have to keep an open mind to any piece of evidence or opportunity where evidence comes through. And like you said, you're sitting where you got a cold breeze and you got your window or something open behind you. First thing you got to look for, if you feel a cold breeze or a drop in temperature, is an open window or an air vent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you familiar? And this happened up in your neck of the woods back in the 70s, but the Philip experiment. Are you familiar?
Geez, I was only 4 years old back then, so I've never actually looked into it. No.
Are you saying I'm old? Is that what you're saying?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything.
Well, the Philip experiment was, I believe, done in Toronto, and I want to say it was in 72 or 74. And this, I think this is an important thing for us to look at. And what this group did, they created a dossier on a guy. It was a group no different from yours or mine, actually. They created a dossier on a guy, gave him a name, Philip, and his last name escapes me right now. I want to say Ayers, but I don't know if that's correct. But they created this entire dossier on a guy, gave him wife, kids, whatever, put him into a very important part of history. And then they started to conduct EVP sessions, seances, whatever, in a controlled environment. And they filmed all kinds of things happening. They recorded voices, the table tipping, I believe, and things like that. But here's the kicker. Philip never existed.
Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about. I've actually seen a documentary on TV about that. It's our mind actually, because it's like suggestive, right? So now you're actually going to imagine that things are happening based on this fictional character.
Well, and I think that's, yes, exactly. And I think that's a very, I think that's a very, very important thing for us to consider when we're investigating how much of it could be us. I mean, we've all heard we only use 20% of our brain. Well, the truth is we use 100% of our brain. We only know what 20% of it does. So
Exactly. Yeah.
what are the abilities of our own brain? Could we manipulate this evidence? And I think that is also a legitimate direction with which to take this field of inquiry. Is could it possibly be us? And you brought up really good points with the hair standing on head, the hair standing up on your arm, or the goose pimples. Is it our own body reacting to it? Well, could we even go so far as to create the evidence ourselves?
I think it's a possibility, of course, and it's a aspect of investigating that I think we should probably investigate further. Like I said before, I think sometimes our mind and our body could be our worst enemies when it comes to investigating, but it's definitely something we should look in further, that maybe we're just producing this ourselves. It's us actually making it happen because we want to. It's you see what you want to see, right? You hear what you want to hear. And that's why when you go into investigations, you got to try to stay very unbiased and very kind of, I won't even say the word flatline, but very focused and very level. Mm-hmm. And so you don't get caught into that loop where you're going to start imagining stuff and your mind's going to start playing tricks on you.
I totally agree. And I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit here because it's my personal opinion. I still feel that way, generally speaking, but I have dealt with a medium in particular that has just produced information that there's no way he could have produced. It's a gentleman who was on the show, Chris Huff, in fact, just fantastic stuff that there's no way he could have reproduced. And his take is, and as we're getting down to the last couple of minutes here, is there's just stuff out there we still don't understand. So is it possible, Dan? Is it possible that maybe there are no answers in our logical box that we live in? There are no logical answers for this, but it is something on the other side.
Yeah, I think finding answers is there's possibility that there are no answers, but we're still going to keep looking. All we can do is capture evidence and figure out, okay, can I explain it or not? If you can't, then there's something more than what we see in our daily lives, right?
And look, 100 years ago, nobody thought we'd be doing what we're doing today, talking on a phone on our wrist and things like that. So things are going to continue to change. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, we know for a fact that there are things that we can't see. We can't see radio waves, but they're there. Okay. And dogs will hear sounds that we don't hear. So, there's stuff out there that we can't explain.
We'll keep looking, won't we, Danny?
I'm never going to stop. That's for sure.
Real quick, your email or your website is what? www.ghost-canada.com?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, folks, check him out. He has got one heck of a group up there in Canada. And Dan, I really, really want to thank you for joining us today. It was a great show. Gave us a lot to think about.
Yeah. That's definitely some stuff to reflect on. And thanks so much for having me, Larry. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Thanks again. And folks, be with us. Stay with us for next week. We've got some great shows coming. Got folks coming from England, Australia, got some folks here in the States. A lot of great shows. Stay with us. And until we get together again, stay safe, take care of your family, and we'll see all of you on the other side. Have a great week, folks. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Encounters with the Other Side with the Ghost Guy, Larry Lawson, Wednesdays in the 11 a.m. hour, right here on Digital 1590 WPSL. I'm telling you, it is one of the many reasons why we're the talk of the Treasure Coast. Thank you for joining us. For more information, check out our archives, WPSLTV.com. That's our YouTube archives, where you'll find the Ghost Guy and Encounters with the Other Side.